Hello everybody, my name is Brian Torney. I am from Kanoichi Creative and Interactive Services. I'm here to introduce Mr. Steve Drucker from Hasbro. Steve is a Vice President in Hasbro's HasLab, in addition to being an executive producer on a number of different projects for Hasbro as well. When I first met Steve, it was over a phone call, I think in 2006. This phone call started off with, "Josh Izzo?" I said, huh? And then he said, "Kanoichi." And I said, yes, that's us, that's us. And then instantaneously he changed the way that our company did business with his philosophies around toy and game brands. Steve has an extensive expertise in traditional toy and games branding and manufacturing through his earlier work at Kenner before he was at Hasbro. And then on to his experiences at Hasbro as well too, working on such brands as transforming the toy industry with the Batman brand. I know that you also worked on everything from Transformers to Star Wars to G.I. Joe, executive producing on a number of different Transformers iterations on television, and really more than anything helping to transform for Hasbro what are toy brands into brands that are in multiple media, which I think is what he's here to talk about today. So without further ado, Steve Drucker.
Morning. Thanks Brian, and thanks Barry's from T&G. I'm really glad to be here. So audience engagement in the multi-platform world. It's all about emotional connections. And at the heart of everything we do, if you're an inventor here in the room, you work in our industry, it's connecting to your audience. That's what it's all about. And we spend a lot of time at Hasbro really trying to understand the DNA. Who's that audience? What are their age? What are they doing? You know, where do they spend their time? So it's all about the theater of play. And it's everywhere. You can't go anywhere without that theater of play. And that's what we're all here about. It's the theater of play when you hold the toy in your hand, you watch the movie, you go on Facebook. But you gotta be really, really consistent with your messaging. You really have to know that connecting emotion to your audience. And you just don't throw a property over the wall and say, make me a website. That's just, it doesn't work. And I'm gonna go through a bunch of brands and kind of walk through them, what those emotional connections are. We got a lot of clicks. So here's my word of the week, entertainment. And I think it'll stick longer than a week. I really like the word a lot. And I can apply it all over the place wherever I go. And here are some amazing brands that I'm going to talk about that are just awesome at entertainment, and they have legs. They really do. These brands, for all different reasons, connect with an audience and are perfect. They reinvent. I'm going to talk a little bit at the end about prescience. It's that science of this moment in time, and what are all the things going on, right? Politically, socially, in science. Certain brands can just morph through them and keep their essence, keep having entertainment with a new audience year in and year out. They're really amazing. They're great. I got this email on my way here. I was sitting at the airport on Monday and there was a writer saying, hey, Lego's gonna do a movie and you guys are doing movies, I'd like to interview you. You have this deal with Universal because you guys are gonna do this Battleship movie. And then this line he said at the end, you know, really got me, but he goes, it seems like the tail is wagging the dog. And this guy doesn't get it. The game of Battleship, you boil it down, right? Battleship, the game will be there. People forget this movie ever came out last year. Why? Because at the heart of the DNA is the blind reveal. Ah, I got it! You know, I blew up. That blind reveal, that's an emotional connection. You do it over and over and over again. You never get tired of it, right? That connection, no matter if there's no more battleships, you know, we'll put something else in there, but the blind reveal is the heart of the property. And I think a lot of times when you invent the game, you pitch it, you really need that branded, you got to understand it. So many people, they invent their toys, they invent their games, they put a huge passion into it. It's hard to do. It's hard to run the gauntlet to get something out of the market. But when you get that emotional connection right, I think you'll find the job gets a lot easier. So I want to talk about your audience. It doesn't matter where it is in the new social media network. You want to bring them into your space. You want your audience to be a co-creator. You don't exactly want to tell them how to play. You want to invite them in so they get to imprint their emotions, their feelings, and they want to play it over and over and over again in their own voice. And we'll talk about that in a bunch of different properties. So, Field of Dreams, I added a word, but you know, if you build it right, they will come. So, let's talk about one of the greatest characters ever, Buzz Lightyear. So, Buzz he's not a great toy, right? I mean, his wings pop out. I mean, he has a great look, don't get me wrong. But Buzz is a great friend. He's an over $1 billion toy. I mean, I'm sure he's way over $1 billion toy. He was $1 billion toy 5 years ago. My best example of, I mean, you can't have a better friend than Buzz as a kid. When you're in that, and you're in your room, and you're playing, you're alone, Buzz is there for you. And I have a colleague at work whose son was going to go to kindergarten. And, you know, everything seemed to be going well. And he had Buzz sheets, he had Buzz toys, he had Buzz pillowcases, he had Buzz PJs. And I want to just go back to the tag wailing the door. This isn't about sales and everything. Buzz is all over his room because he loves Buzz. Buzz is important to his life. He has a dialogue with Buzz. He plays good and bad. His first experiences of good and bad are with Buzz in his room. He plays both sides, right? So he was in panic. He didn't want to get on the bus. He didn't want to leave his room. He could not go to his first day of kindergarten. And his parents had a brilliant idea. Why don't you put your Buzz pajamas under your school clothes? That way, Buzz will go to school with you. Everything was cool, didn't have a problem. Waving at the bus, all was good. I just can't say how important what we do and what we think about every day and what we try to achieve in our business is. So he's a truly heroic best friend. So this is another whole category that I love. And this is the look is the hook. So the look is the hook. Pet Shop had no IP. Pet Shop was just all these wonderful, wonderful characters. But when you go on YouTube, you will see thousands and thousands of homemade videos with the Pet Shop characters because all the girls put their story onto them. So you collect them. It's not about collecting. It's not about selling thousands of Pet Shop. You have the biggest theater you ever want. You watch these girls. You go to the play groups. It's wonderful. They all tell their stories. One of the biggest juggernaut brands out there ever. You know, there's not one piece of IP behind it. Hello Kitty. Oh my God, who wouldn't want a piece of Hello Kitty? You go to Japan, you can get a sex toy, a Volkswagen, a wedding dress, all Hello Kitty. Because you put your story into it. It's there, it's a blank canvas for you. And it sells on and on. The catalog for Hello Kitty, if any of you have ever seen it, there isn't anything that doesn't have a Hello Kitty on it. So that's another one. And there are subtleties with this. As you think about, invention and toy and games, and you want to go international, there are a lot of subtleties. And when you come into companies, like Hasbro, they look at things not just domestically, we may do, but when we go, wow, how will this idea work globally? You know, what are our biggest markets around the world? How does this fit? I always wondered why Candyland wasn't in the UK and in Europe, and I found out that because they call candy sweets. Doesn't work, does it? So it's a good one. And I used to travel out to Japan working on Transformers, and I was trying to figure out, working with a lot of artists, I really wanted to know why they loved Mickey Mouse. I just asked over and over again why they love Mickey Mouse. They're very calligraphic, you know, long history of calligraphy and everything. But right up, you see the intersection of those three circles on top? That's literally the first shogun of the Edo period, which became Tokyo. It's everywhere. You walk around and it's in the buildings and everywhere. It's not hard to get from those three intersecting circles to Mickey Mouse. I mean, it's subtle. It's really subtle, but it's always there in a lot of ways. And Mickey Mouse is a huge icon there, and a lot of it's about the shape. It's not about the IP sometimes. And so the look as a hook can go pretty far. It's pretty cool. I'm not talking about hardly any Hasbro properties, right? So Ben 10, this brand from the second it was invented at Cartoon Network is multi-platform DNA genius. It's just genius. There's not one part of Ben 10 that doesn't work, and it just gets reinvented every year. He talks to his kid. They've upaged him a little, but he's still very relevant to the kid audience. You know, he has his lightsaber. He turns into, in the beginning, 10 different characters, multi-level, gaming. It's like all there, right? Ben 10 is brilliant. It's all built into his DNA. It's kind of funny because it is his DNA. So, but when you're building properties and you're building ideas, if it's not in there in the beginning, if you don't have it, you really got to think through all of these things. You never get to a Ben 10. And it's really a pretty brilliant idea. It'll be around for a long time. So we have a number of properties, and you go around and you look at them, and when you go to websites, the kids know it right away when you're forcing it. There's a lot of good web designers out there. There's a lot of people that make great Facebook games and can probably do it with anything you walk in the door with. But if the kid's really going to go back, they get it quickly. They really know, this is my property because it's really part of the DNA of the property. And those play patterns that you move to as these brands grow out, they're successful because it's all in the IP. It's built into it in the right way. So I think Ben 10 is a pretty great example of that. Star Wars is just an amazing property. And because at the heart of it is this huge human experience, at the heart of it is this how human beings have told stories since they started telling stories. And you have Joseph Campbell sitting at the ranch going through the hero's journey. And that is at the heart of Star Wars. And that's why it goes on and on and on. I don't have the stats, but if Buzz Lightyear is $1 billion toy, the lightsaber is equal or more. But the lightsaber isn't just a toy. The lightsaber is the inner force of an entire universe. You hold that in your hand. A lot of times you work with the movie guys, they go, yeah, we're going to throw in a great vehicle. Oh, it's great, yeah, you'll love it. You'll sell 1 million of them. That's really not how it works. You sell Millennium Falcons day in and day out because the Millennium Falcon is a vehicle with foibles. It doesn't work sometimes. You got to kick it. You got to talk to it. It's a character. And that's why all the parts of Star Wars are so brilliant. the hero's journey of the Jedi, learning himself, getting that power. It's every kid's fantasy. And it goes to the heart of our human experience, and that's what Joseph Campbell, brought to the table. Father figures, mother figures, everything has a story in it, and that's why all these parts of Star Wars, day in and day out, do really well in the marketplace. It's because they have an emotional connection to the audience. You play the theater of good versus evil day in and day out, and every 2 years there is every year it seems you move to the Clone Wars, every iteration of Star Wars, the kids fill their rooms up with the toys because they build this galactic hero journey, and they're in the middle of it. They are a galactic hero. And so many properties try to get there, but they didn't spend the kind of time with a man like Joseph Campbell saying, no, this is that human experience you want to concentrate on. This is going to be meaningful in this character. Discovery, I did a chart recently on just the hero arc of Luke, and it's amazing. It's really amazing. He goes through a lifetime, and that first movie, he goes through a lifetime of experiences. I tell you, kids get it. They really get it, and they put that lightsaber in their hand, and now their hero journey has begun. It's an amazing experience, and it's an important connection. And last but not least, it's Batman. Batman was born in 1939. Superman was born in 1938. They both came out of the pulp. They both came out of the Depression. Batman he used to shoot guns the first couple of years. But he was a vigilante. Superman was the uber immigrant. He's an alien, right? Two totally different paths. Both of them made it this far, but Batman is what I like to call his prescience perfection. Batman can do that. Batman can be relevant and reinvent itself. And if we have some Batman geeks here, they'll run up here and they'll go, oh, that was the toy line. No, that was Batman Beyond. Oh, yeah, that's the origins of Batman. No, that's Batman animated. It's a brilliant property. Batman, everything in his world has a story arc and is iconic. Everything in his world is iconic. Kids get it. Boom, it doesn't matter what age you are. During the 50s, when they threw all the comics, they really stopped the comic stand, even when I'm trying to remember his name, which I always forget, but it was the comic industry's equivalent to the McCarthy era, where a psychologist came out and said comics and comic book heroes are all bad for you. And by the way, that editing had pretty much kept the comic industry, in a little corner, even into the 80s. But through all of that, Batman still stayed Batman. He made it through. He got a little goofy a few times in the 60s, but guess what? The 60s was kind of goofy. So he even worked there with Adam West. He constantly can reinvent himself because of that emotional connection. His IP, the tragic origin story, the kids get it. The ultimate detective, they get it. The Batmobile, which sells day in and day out because it has a story as well. It's part of the character. It's not just a vehicle he gets in and goes from point A to point B. Batman, he leaves the vehicle, he tells it what to do, he does his thing. It's his other Robin. It's alive. It means something to the storytelling, it means something to all the characters in it. So, prescience is something a lot of people might not look at. It's out there, you could get books on it and everything, but it gives you an interesting context to a point, in your point in time. particularly is sometimes when it takes maybe 2-3 years to, you know, sell an idea, to get an animation into a studio, to get a toy to market. It's really important to understand what's going on out there in the world and what's affecting that audience. What is that audience really caring about now? What's bringing families together to the table or not? And that's the prescience calendar. And that's Batman, and that's all I have to say.
Steve, thank you. Thank you so much.